Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I wanted to do this quick little audio message on why detachment is so important on your spiritual awakening journey. Now, if you think about all the people that you actually come across in your lifetime and think about, the interactions that you have with them. Some are pleasant, some are not so pleasant. Think about, running into somebody that hits you either on purpose or by accident, and maybe it upsets you. Hanging on to that interaction as you run into these people creates impressions on yourself. And so, what we end up doing as we move through life, through the hustle bustle of everyday life, is we end up creating these impressions and these based on these interactions that we're having with people. Now, some of these interactions cause us pain, some of them cause us worry, some we're unable to forgive, and that is what determines where our state of consciousness really lies. Now, if we take the experiences that, we come across and we try to move through life knowing that this is just an experience. I'm not to really take it personally and move on from that. You have a very different experience in life than if you were to hold on to those interactions. I want you to think about almost a hot air balloon, on your spiritual awakening journey. Now, you being the soul are very light, but what keeps you tied down to your 3D reality is the fact that you are unwilling to let go of the experiences that you are having. That pain that somebody causes you, you can either learn from it and move on from it, or you can allow it to really hold you in place, hold you hostage, hold you tied down, so that you cannot actually fly, you cannot actually ascend. And that's what ends up happening lifetime over lifetime, is you keep creating these impressions that stay with you, and those catalysts or experiences that are meant to help you grow end up doing the opposite thing because you are not processing the experiences that you are having from a place of growth. Rather, you are taking on the pain, the emotional response, the reactions to what's happening, and that is stunting your growth. Now, if you keep doing this lifetime over lifetime, what's happening is you are not processing those emotions appropriately and you're not able to move on from them. So what ends up happening is your state of consciousness remains low. You are unable to take off those layers. You stay in separation. And so, what you're meant to do when you finally come onto a spiritual journey where you're now seeking for those answers, you're trying to learn, how do I really ascend on this awakening journey or my spiritual journey? Well, you start by becoming neutral to all those experiences you're having, people that come across your path, not really taking things personally, understanding that each difficult moment that you're coming across is just trying to teach you to be better, to teach you to have a higher state of consciousness, to not be bothered by it at the level that you do when you hold on to things and you're not willing to forgive people. Because at the end of the day, that is the only way that you will be able to reach those higher states of consciousness. Now, just think about, all those people that you come across. If you were to literally be handed a little red string for each one of those individuals that you cross paths with, that you're not willing to forgive and forget, imagine that you are holding on to a little red string for each one of those individuals. Just think about how much baggage you are carrying, lifetime over lifetime by not letting that go. And so what ends up happening is you end up creating these loops with those same individuals, recycling those experiences, which only ultimately, if you're not learning a lesson associated with them, keep cycling back over and over. And so when you are finally understanding what's really happening. What you want to do is start to literally take a scissor energetically and cut off all of those ties, detach yourself, so that, like the hot air balloon, once those strings come off that are tied down to the ground, you can actually move upward, you can actually fly. Now, if you are a twin flame listening to this applies to you and your twin exactly the same way. Even though you are looking to come into union with your twin flame, you have to detox, you have to move away from the attachment with your twin, because even though ultimately you might be, in search of union, that union can only come about when you detach from the outcome, detach from, the relationship, that mental association, because you are trying to move above the mind. The soul cannot carry the baggage, cannot carry a worldly attachment to something that you have in the 3D. That is not where the soul is going. So if you are really in search for that truth, you are trying to get to that bottom of what the soul is really about, everything needs to go. Every single attachment that you can think of. Just literally think of it as becoming neutral to all the experiences. If you were to, be lifted very high up in the air and you could take a look at your life almost from a soul perspective, very high above the ground, you would have a very different perspective of how life is, running, how people are moving through it, versus when you're actually on the ground running through your life. So you want to almost take that high macro level experience and that understanding and look at your life from that perspective now, so that you are able to let go, so that you are able to release. And when you're actually able to do this, you start to remove those layers that are holding you back. You start to cut off those strings that are, holding you down and tying you down. And then you are able to literally move through your spiritual experience with a lot more ease. You're able to move to those higher states of consciousness much, much easier. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was helpful. God bless.